All right, YouTube is coming back. All right. These jokers ain't trying to come to this lounge this early. All right. I thank you guys for being patient on Facebook as I get this thing squared away. Let's see, what was y'all talking about? That it gets people on YouTube a little bit. One day gonna come out here, cool. Come out, whatever. Ex-assembly of God. There's a lesson in the malfunction. Yeah, make sure I get everything squared away. Accountability is virtuous. Yeah, I got to make sure I get everything squared away before. Like I said, I was. It's my fault completely. I was rushing to get when I got in here, but you know what? We back. We back. We got it back. We good. We good. Just giving YouTube a little bit of a few minutes to get back on here, but um, I think that's about all the time I'm going to give because I want to make sure we get it going and get back into it. All right, so we left off with this guy giving his low key, mob terrorist thing of, hey, I brought you out of Egypt. I can, I killed all of them. Thank you for the stars, Deborah. Thank you, dear. I appreciate the donation. Said, I brought them jokers out of Egypt. Y'all know I do my genocide thing, but we're going to see a lot of anger out of this guy in this chapter 19. Chapter 19 really displays the personality of anger and frustration, and that's why that's one of the reasons why so many of these when people are Christian being angry and mass murdering is okay because this is what their God does. This is what their God demonstrates. I'm going to make you my chosen people. You're my favorite child. We all know that that's bad parenting when you say that this is my favorite child. When you say that I'm going to isolate you from everybody else and I'm going to give to you, I'm going to make you a holy nation. I'm doing everything for you, because even though the whole earth is mine, you are my treasured possession. What does that do to the rest of the world? Oh, sure. 1,000 years later, we're going to be grafted in. You're the adopted stepchild. Come on, man. The adopted child rarely feels equal to the birth children. I'm not saying you can't have good parents, but you know how it feels to be the adopted kid. It is not the adopted kid most often times don't feel as but we'll continue. So Moses went back and summoned the elders of the people and set before them all the words the Lord had commanded him to speak. The people all responded together, we will do everything the Lord has said. Because they said this all together. So to me, in my mind, it sounds like a whole big cult thing. We will do everything the Lord has said. So Moses brought their answers back to the Lord. Now, isn't this interesting? So Moses went up to the mountain. The Lord talked to him. Then Moses came down the mountain, got the answer from the people. Then Moses had to go back up to the mountain to tell the Lord what they said. Where is the all-powerful, omnipresent God here? Shouldn't he already know what the people had said since he's all-present, omnipresent? Then he should have. There's no need for Moses to go up to the top of the mountain. But this is a theme in ancient Sumeria and Babylonian, Akkadian religions. The way to communicate with the gods was to go up to the tallest mountain. It's the same thing comedically. The way to communicate with the gods was to build a tower or a pyramid or something of that sort to communicate with the gods. When you see it from the Anunnaki standpoint of how the Anunnaki came before, in order for humans to communicate with the gods, they had to build some type of tower or go up to the highest mountain. This is a repetitive theme that we see in these stories. And when you read other people's stories too, the Egyptians had to go to the tops of pyramids. They didn't have mountains. so much in Egypt. So they went to the top of pyramids and the top of buildings of temples. Why do we do that? Think about if you go to some of these areas where we're trying to commute, where we want to have communications, where do we set communication facilities? At the top of buildings in a city. You look at the skyline. If you're paying attention, you'll see communication satellites, communication dishes on the top of buildings. You go to some of these outlying places like Montana, Idaho, go to Hawaii, on top of mountains is where you set your communication dishes. When we want to communicate with each other in long distances, we set them at the top of communication tower. This is another reason why von Danker thought that these were aliens that they were communicating with, because each time they had to go to the tops of mountains. And then later on, we're going to see another indicator that von Däniken focused on as to why these might have been aliens, as alien visits, as far as they were concerned. And one of the reasons here, why do you have to communicate? Why does Moses have to keep going back and forth? Years old, and he's going up and down mountains. He's pretty spry. That's a good workout. Hell, I don't even want to go up and down the mountain right now. That's a good workout, Moses. So he went back. And the Lord said to Moses, I am going to come to you in a dense cloud, so that the people will hear me speaking to you and will always put their trust in you. Then Moses told the Lord what the people had said. Why you got to come in the dense cloud? See, here we are again. Spaceships coming into the dense cloud. And this is also that the people will put their trust in Moses. You parted the Red Sea. This is where the writers are a little daft to me. You parted the Red Sea. You boils, river into blood, all the potable water, blood, flies, frogs. You did all these other things. But you coming in a dense cloud is going to make the people, but trust in you. You threw a stick in some, and it cleaned up the water. You hit a rock and created a river. You got manna. You got quail just show up, first of all. And then you got manna, which we covered, which was more than likely, most scholars think that it was insect poop. You made bread out of insect poop with some quail. But you coming in a cloud. Like, how daft are these people? We done did all of that. And this is what you need. You need more to trust. But Moses told him what he had said. And the Lord said to Moses, go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow. Have them wash their clothes and be ready on the third day. You got to get your Sunday best on. Get your Sunday best on. You got to make sure y'all right. Y'all can't just be talking to the Lord and not have your stuff together now. You got to get the 3 days. Wash your butt. Because, washing your butt wasn't a normal thing, every time. You've been binging Ancient Aliens? Yeah, they got a lot of good stuff. They got a lot of crazy stuff. No. You got to get y'all consecrated. Can't be talking to the Lord and y'all stink, because you can imagine they don't bathe every day anyway already. But now you about to go all through this process. That's great. Their quail was the first Uber Eats. C-Max. They had Uber. Boy, you stupid. And be ready on the third day, because the Lord will come down on Mount Sinai in the sight of all people. Put limits for the people around the mountain and tell them, be careful that you do not approach the mountain or touch the foot of the mountain. Whoever touched the mountain will be put to death. I'm telling you, why does everything got to jump to the death penalty with this God? Do you see why people of this religion, when it was adopted by the Romans and the Europeans, that they it is such a violent religion within itself. Why, when all the Abrahamic religions, the Islam, oh, we don't goddamn jihad this thing, because this God demonstrates such levels of violence for small shit, for small things. I'm a parent. I remember when the children were little. Y'all trying to get ready for the consecration. You trying to get consecrated. You taking your baths and all that. Your butt ass naked. The children will always be children. You could be in the most negative situation in the world, and kids will find time to play. Them kids can be running around playing tag, and then they touch the side of the mountain. Oh hell, they touch the foot of the mountain. Then you gotta. So what do you do with the kids? You got to put them to death. And how do you put them to death? They are to be stoned or shot with arrows. Not a hand is to be laid on them, because y'all been consecrated, so you got to stay clean. No person nor or animal shall be permitted to live. So even if your animal's gonna touch the foot of the mountain, kill them. Only when the ram's horn sound as a long blast may they approach the mountain. We're going into for my astrological people, this is the age of the ram. Moses represents the age of the ram, right? So that's why it's the ram's horn. But stone. But we used trash can lids for shields back when everybody had the metal trash can, And even the rocks hurt. But you know how many times you got to be hit with the rock to be stoned? This is cruel. Shot with arrows, unless you're shot in a vital spot. Being shot with arrows is not an instant death thing. Unless it goes like pierce your eye or, goes through your skull, through your heart. It's not instant. You can get shot in the leg, the arm, the shoulder. It could take a minute. This is some cruel stuff here. For just touching the foot of the mountain. Just touching the foot of the mountain. And children will run. They will run. All right. So after Moses had gone down the mountain to the people, he consecrated them, and they washed their clothes. Then he said to the people, prepare yourself for the third day. Abstain from sexual relations. Now, God didn't say nothing about abstaining from sexual relations, but Moses said, abstain from sexual relations. Y'all been staying for 3-4 days. Now y'all everybody butt naked washing. I'm about to get some. Me and my lady, oh shit. Moses, can you give me can we get a reprieve in an hour? Can we start this? Give us an hour. Let us wash up. Let us get some. And then we'll consecrate. He just came down. Nope. No sex. What if y'all, that's just wrong. That's just a personal wrong to me. Just a personal wrong. But I digress. So Moses not been up. This is his second trip up and down the mountain. On the morning of the third day was thunder and lightning, with a thick cloud covering the mountain and a very loud trumpet blast. Everyone in the camp trembled. I don't know why they're scared. He told them they was coming. But you see how Van Danker was saying, because if you think about a aircraft landing, a spaceship coming down, descending, and it's going to say descended in just a minute. Thunder and lightning. When you see volcanoes erupt and it's very powerful, there's thunder and lightning that actually happens inside the cloud formation of a volcano, right? And a very loud trumpet blast. Everyone was trembling. Ooh, we scared. Then Moses led the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Mount Sinai was covered with smoke because the Lord descended on it in fire. The smoke bellowed up from it like smoke from a furnace. The whole mountain trembled violently. As the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder, Moses spoke, and the voice of the Lord answered him. Von Denker and many of the people on the Ancient Aliens, even though they are doing some of their stuff for ratings, because they reach on some of it. But this is the part that I don't see them reaching. This sounds like a spaceship landing on top of a mountain. This, if you've never seen, like when you watch the NASA launching the rocket, you know what it looks like, the smoke bellows, the fire, and all that kind of stuff. Now that's landing up. We don't have the capabilities of coming down like that. We don't, we didn't build modules that did that. They splashed down in the water, or we did the shuttle. We had the shuttles. But you can imagine if we were to build a spacecraft that we wanted to be able to just land and go back up, it would use some type of reverse, some thrusting tech. It would use thrusters to a lesser degree to just slowly engines rotate. You got a side engine that rotates up, down, and then it kind of allows it to hover, and then they decrease the power slowly so that it can land. When this is happening now, it's not fire and smoke coming out of it, because you feel all this heat. And if there would have been some smoke, it would have been a whole bunch of that coming, but it's blowing the dust and everything around. That's how this looks to me. So, ancient aliens. I will give them this one. Right? And then you hear the trumpet. Then Moses spoke, and the voice of the God answered him. So he over the PA system. Over the PA system. That's all. Just the PA system. Hey y'all, I'm here. The Lord descended to the top of Mount Sinai. So the spacecraft landed on the top of the mountain. Sounds alien. And called Moses to the top of the mountain. So Moses, again, in his 80s, 90s, is going back up this mountain. So Moses went up, and the Lord said to him, go down and warn the people so that they do not force their way through to see the Lord, and many of them perish. Even the priests who approach the Lord must consecrate themselves, or the Lord will break out against them. Why is he consistently threatening these people? Look him. I took y'all, brought y'all out of Egypt. I could have killed all y'all, but I didn't. I'm making y'all my treasured people. Go down there and ask people that's what they want. Because now they don't, I'm gonna kill them. But let them know that's what I'm saying. All right, they all agree. All right, well, I'm gonna come in 3 days. When I come in 3 days, make sure they consecrate. But if they touch the foot of the mountain that I ain't even there yet, because I don't want their nasty ass touching the foot of the mountain that I'm gonna land in, because I'm a prima donna, I'm gonna kill them with bows and arrows and stones. Now that I'm here, I still don't want them stank jokers coming up near me, or I'm going to kill them. I'm going to break out against them. Even the priests, they got to be consecrated, because if you ain't consecrate yourself, if you ain't took a bath, because you stink, because I'm God, and I don't want to smell your little funkiness, then I'm going to break out against you. Now, y'all know breaking out, that joker, he talking violence. This is why they are so violent. Moses said to the Lord, the people cannot come up Mount Sinai, because you yourself warned us. Put limits around the mountain and set it apart as holy. Isn't this kind of... I want y'all to imagine this. This guy is like, hey, don't tell them people to come bum rush me. I know I'm famous, you know what I'm saying? I know they want to come up, get some autographs and all that kind of thing. I don't have them coming up in here, because they do, I'm going to break out against them. Security force going to come out and kill all these jokers. And then Moses said, oh, dude, you told us that already. We ain't coming up here. The people ain't coming, because you kind of already told us not to do it, that you put limits around the mountain. Remember that? How did this guy forget that he put limits? You see what I'm saying? This is why the writing doesn't make sense. This is one reason why it's like, okay, come on, man. This is some bullshit. The Lord replied, go down, because it's like, oh shit, I did say that, didn't I? Go down and bring Aaron up with you. But the people must not force their way through and come up to the Lord, or he will break out against them. Who the hell is he? God speaking in third person. But anyway, Moses just reminded you what you said beforehand, but you still... I know I said it and I might have forgotten, but now you reminded me. But I'm still going to say this like I'm right. But the priest and the people must not force their way through to come up to the Lord. You already said that. or he will break out against them. This is repetitive. This guy really likes doing some threatening. This. So when people wonder why in the Middle Ages, why the trans-African slave trade, the colonization of Africa, the treatment of people in India by Christians, why all this stuff happening by Christians in Europe, and then even when these colonized places become Christian, and why those people, who Christianity was forced on, why they can be so violent, why they can be so vile to each other, why they are so. This is an example of why they are threatening in that way. When they come on here and they always tell us, "You're on to hell," you gonna wish that you had converted over to the Lord. Oh, you like the darkness. You just want to do whatever you want to do and be evil. This is why they are threatening, and they cannot. This is one reason why they are threatening, have a threatening mentality instead of things respectfully, because they can't, because their God has already demonstrated that you must be violent towards the. And this is a big thing for this entire chapter. When they try to come across and say you are to fear the Lord, but that fear, because only in one portion in Psalms where it talks about that fear being a fear based on respect, but all of the times of fearing this God is not a fear based on respect. It's a fear based on death threats. You are to fear this God because this God will break out against you. You are to fear this God because he's going to remind you of what he did to the Egyptians, letting you know it can happen to you. We got like other threats that's coming up in chapter 20, which we're actually going to get to these so-called 10 commandments. This God wants you to fear him out of keeping your life, to, as people say today, to not be unalived. That is the fear of this God. And if you have to be in fear of a God in order to respect this God, and then you turn around and call this God love, you are fooling yourself. No God of says that I must gain your love through fear. Because if I have to gain your love through fear, then that makes this God a tyrant. It makes this God an overlord. It makes this God a warlord, because the only way he can get you to behave, to follow him, to love him, to honor him, is to threaten you with death, threaten you with slavery, threaten you with storms and famines and all these other things. I cannot just show you. I cannot just lead you. I cannot just teach you. First, I got to threaten you first and make sure that you know better. And you're supposed to be grown. We're not talking about children. We're not talking about kids. Children, they don't understand that if they run out into the middle of the street, get hit by a car, how they can be injured. Children don't understand that. But these are grown people, adults. You shouldn't have to threaten adults if you are this God. If you just brought me out of the slavery, miraculously brought me out of the slavery, I don't need no threats. I don't need any threats, guy. Look, dude, I got you. You my dude. You my guy. Look, I need about $20,000 to refill every cigar that I used to have in this humidor. If God all of a sudden, if God walked like I am God, I know your needs. Here you go, 20 grand. Man, I'm grown, so I'm like, you hit me where I needed something. I can use that, or whatever it is. Hey, just wave his hand over my body, and all the arthritis and all the back pain and everything just gone miraculously. New body, just ooh, bruh. Everything's good. Blood level, well, my blood level, everything is good. But you know what I'm saying? If I had the diabetes, you ain't got to come and threaten me. You got me right there. It's like old girl said, you happy? Yeah, hello. 20,000, that's your price. No, it's not my price. I was just using that as an example because it's an immediate, it's a thing. But you know, but just saying, this dude just you just split the Red Sea. You brought them out of some serious situation, something worth more than $20,000, right? Uh, you just brought them out of something like that, and you didn't do it because. So look at the American slavery, for instance. The American slavery, just for us to get to this point where we still deal with a lot of bullshit. We're talking about something that has happened for over a 400-year period and has progressive and was a progression, you know, a long progression of abolitionists and the Civil War and the politics, and then the politics of the money and voting, which led to the Civil War over slavery and new slave states or non-slave states to go into after that Reconstruction, Jim Crow, you know, and then the 60s movements, and then still fighting and still having to deal with bullshit today. I will never claim that God moved my ancestors through that bullshit. My ancestors who were in Africa, they through the colonization. You're talking about 400 years of bullshit that they dealt with. God didn't move those people through that. Otherwise, that's slow. We talking about, according to this story, this dude did everything in like a couple of weeks, like a week or two. Amazing shit, splitting waters, and all of a sudden, you still got a death threat to these people? Come on. What got us in this position? That's a sidetrack conversation as far as what got us into this position. But if you hold on till we finish with 20, we can have a discussion with that about that one. Because that's actually a very long conversation. It's not very long, but it's a big discussion. So I was just using that as an example. YouTube keeps messing up. What is it doing? Some people like to be ruled over. Exactly. What is YouTube doing? Let me know what YouTube is doing. I'll see if there's something that I can fix. I'm not sure about it. Icon. One thing is, why do I have multiple screens open? Pages. All right. So let's continue. All right. I just closed one thing down. So hopefully that will keep it from skipping. Genesis, why do I keep saying Genesis? Exodus 20. This is where we actually get to these 10 commandments. Some good hygiene advice in some religious books. And the main message should be to live and compassion. But it is mostly, to make you obedient and make you an obedient slave. And prostitution is also fine in the Bible. If you need natural health information, check my pinned post. I'll always enjoy my cigars. So we continue. And God spoke all these words. Let me preface this chapter by this. These people, this is one reason why you know that this book was written based on culture, the culture of the people, right? Um, to fit their culture of the day. That it wasn't written by a God that inspired people. I don't know why YouTube is tripping today. Maybe every day something different. Don't know why YouTube is doing that. They say YouTube is skipping. Um, hmm. Don't not sure yet why. Do not know sure why this is still acting like this. Because when did the Anunnaki leave from the Old Testament? Well, the Anunnaki had been left before the Hebrew people ever came about. They were just the Hebrew people were just retelling the stories of people that came before them, retelling the Sumerian stories. But basically, after Nimrod is about a time frame where they're gone, and they're just allowing humans to rule according to their bloodline of Anunnaki blood. All right, so all right, I don't know what else I can do to YouTube to make it not act the way it's acting. So we're just gonna have to go with what we got. So now you would think with them coming out of Egypt that this Lord, the first thing that this guy would do, or within this little diatribe here, that he would outlaw slavery. Since the people have just suffered through slavery, that he should outlaw slavery in its totality. But he didn't. Slavery is not on the list. So if slavery, this is because the people of this day, slavery is a normal thing to them. It is a part of how they exist. It is a part of their culture. So when they wrote this book, they're writing it to make their God fit the culture of them. They're not going to write this guy doing something outside of a culture that fits them, nor outside of a thing of prosperity within them. You cannot diminish the money. And throughout all times, slavery has always been about money. That's the initial thing of slavery. It's the money, right? Because if they had just, if for us, for at least for me, for me, if I was writing a Bible today, because I understand what my ancestors here and my ancestors in Africa went through. Slavery is, you shall not have slaves. No man shall own another man. It's like top two, definitely top two. But let's see what this guy's top four is. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt. Don't you goddamn forget it. Out of the land of slavery. But I'm not about to disallow slavery. First commandment, you shall have no other gods before me. Remember, these people are henotheistic. So you can recognize other gods, but do not put any of them before me. Don't put them ahead. So when they say that these people were monotheistic, that they only believed in one, that there was only one God that existed, no, they didn't. Even this God is recognizing there are other gods. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them and worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, showing human emotions, punishing the children for their sins of the parents, to the third generation and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. I've always had a problem with this part. So when I first read this one when I was younger, and I'm looking at, you got the praying hands, you got the Caesarea Borgia. I don't care if they make him black, it's still Caesarea Borgia when they do that. I don't care if they make him black like anything, something completely different. You got the shrine of the Black Madonna. You got Mary and the little baby Jesus, which is a copy of the Hermetic, as well as the Greek and the Indus Valley and the Zoroastrian and so on and so forth. No images, graven images. Now, the first thing that a person will say, and I've tested quite a few people on this. The first thing they would say, well, I don't bow down. I don't worship that picture of Jesus. We don't worship it. It's just a representation. We don't worship it. First of all, I say it don't make any images. This is going to, well, I get to that part. But I test them and I say, okay. And I said, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this picture that you have that represents Jesus, and I'm going to take it outside, and I'm going to smash it, and then I'm going to burn it. You can't burn Jesus. You can't burn the image. Why are you so emotional? Why are you so caught up into this? Do you not actually find this to be a piece of worship? Because you have such an emotional attachment to it, you are worshiping. Just because you don't literally get down on your knees, but because of your emotional attachment to it, you are worshiping this and saying that this is your God, your deity, in a picture form. It may not be the actual, but you certainly do give it reverence, which goes against this commandment, right? Because we're going to find that most of these commandments that people don't keep, can't keep. Some of them are ridiculous to try to keep. But this is also why the Romans had problems with the Jewish people, and there were Jewish revolts, because during the time, especially during the time of Nero, is when it came to a head, and that's when Vespasian was called in. The Roman way was, you can have whatever religion you want, just put a statue of Caesar in it, and once a year pay homage to Caesar. But the Jewish people, they abided by this. I will give Jewish people credit. They abide by this 100%. You will not go into a Jewish synagogue and see doves and pictures of Moses and Abraham and Jacob and Isaac and all of that. You won't see none of that kind of thing in a true Jewish synagogue. So when the Romans tried to force them to put a statue of Caesar, that's when the Jewish people started revolting. And then Vespasian finally had to come down to quell their situation. And the best way to do that was to change the story, just as he did with the Druids. That's a whole nother conversation now, isn't it? But that's also how we get the War of the Maccabees, and you get all the Jewish revolts throughout the Roman Empire. And the Roman Emperor's job is to ensure the life of the Roman Empire. But now this is interesting. This guy says that he's jealous. That's a human trait. That's a weakness. And from this jealousy, he's going to punish people, right? That is a demonstration that jealousy has a pull on this guy, can force this guy to do something. That there is something that can force this guy to be something, act a certain way. Now, we know from our study of the Kabbalion that the all cannot be impressed upon by any force outside of itself. But if jealousy is a force within this guy, then jealousy is a stronger force than the goodness of this God, than stronger force than the fairness of this God, or anything, or the love of this God. Jealousy is stronger because he's not only going to punish the parent, but to the third and fourth generation. So what if the second generation truly loves this God? Is it countermand by the fact that he said by showing love that he will show, if you love him, that he will show love to 1,000 generations? What if somebody messes it up in the middle? Then it starts and it takes up to the fourth generation, and then you got to hope that the fifth generation shows love. Or if actually no, you got to show love even though you're being punished as the second, third, at the first, second, third, and fourth generation. You got to show consistent love in order for the 1,000 generation to be hooked up. But evidently that's never happened, because no 1,000 generation of any family has been hooked up, has been shown this love. Because who has kept these commandments? You can't. You can't keep these commandments, especially some of the ones towards the end. Caesar Borgia that broke the spell. Oh, so the Caesar Borgia book broke the spell by him? Yep. But you see how this works. This is a no-win situation, a catch-22, a double-edged sword. Nobody's going to be able to make sure and ensure that each generation loves this God. It's going to break down somewhere. So this promise of 1,000 generations can be 1,000 generations, because he knows it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Now, this one is a misunderstanding. I'm going to help out some Christians. There's some Christians who listen to this. I'm going to help out some Christians. So I'm going to alleviate some of y'all grief. You shall not misuse, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. This is, do not take the Lord's name in vain. My grandmother used to think that if I say God, well, we would say got, G-O-T, damn it. Because you couldn't say God damn it, when I was older. Of course, when I was a child, I couldn't say it at all, But if you get caught saying God damn, because my grandfather, that was one of his favorite things. God damn it. God damn it. My family called me Wayne. Don't you jokers start calling me that. I'm telling you right now. You will not call me that. But my family calls me Wayne because my middle name is Dwayne. Or Dwayne. And so it was common for me to hear my grandfather say, God damn it, Wayne. Boy, I done told you. But my grandmother used to get so upset with him for saying, stop taking the Lord's name in vain. Saying, oh my God, and that sort of thing is not taking his name in vain. So Christians, here's the help so that you can say that without feeling bad. You'll see this referenced in chapter 27 as well as in Numbers, I think Numbers 3 and some other books, where taking the word used there, Nasan, is meaning to bear the name of. So it's not taking the name in vain, but it is to bear the name of God. So in essence, if you call yourself a Christian, if you call yourself Jewish, when you bear that name, you must be upright in that name. Kind of like my son is in the Air Force right now. His last name is my last name. He is a reflection of me. How he demonstrates himself is him bearing my reflection. So don't go and claim that I'm your dad and you acting a fool. You see what I'm saying? This is what taking the name in vain is. Don't claim the name that you are a representative of this God, but you out here acting foolish. Right? So that's what that one means. So Christians who've been running around saying that, saying God damn it, and actually when it's the actual term is God damn you, which is a person putting a spell on you. When they say God damn you, well, they're basically, I want God to damn you or condemn you for whatever it is, whatever offense you've done. So that is actually more spell work than anything else when people were saying that. So it is not taking their God's name in vain. It is casting a spell on someone who has disrespected you or done some harm to you. Oh my God is like, oh my God, this is wonderful. Oh my God, this is great. Oh my God, I'm just so stunned, surprised. Right. So Christians, y'all might want to get that one squared away. First of all, my daddy gave me my name, C-Mac, and it is not Wayne anyway. It is Dwayne, D-E-W-A-Y-N-E. But my first name is Larenzo, and so you will not call me Wayne because I hate that name. Christians are always exaggerating something. You're exactly right. I said, with C-Mac, when you come by the lounge, we fighting. I'm just telling you right now, we fighting. We going out into the parking lot, we fight. You always want to start something. But yeah, so little Christians, there you go. You ain't got to worry about it. It's just people want to stop. We create curse words are a man-made creation, and they change all the time, right? Some words that are curse words now, they were not curse words before. The B word was not a curse word until we started applying that word to women. Once they were applied to women, then it started becoming a curse word, right? And then you got to think about the term cursing, period. It's like putting a spell on somebody. So to continue, because we got to finish the chapter work before 12 so that we can have the free time. The free time is based on people walking in the door. Should have never said anything. Remember the Sabbath day. So we all that's one, that's two, that's three, that's four. And it's all about this dude, right? All about this dude. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days shall you labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you nor your sons or daughters, nor your male or female servants, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the seventh day. Therefore, the Lord blessed the Sabbath and made it holy. Now, here's an interesting thing. Now, I want y'all to go research this. Who were the first two cultures to initiate a 7-day calendar? Who were the first two cultures to initiate a 7-day calendar? I give you one hint. It wasn't the Hebrews. It wasn't the Hebrews. When did the Bible become for everyone? The Bible didn't become for everyone until, because I'm giving y'all some time to figure out who started a 7-day calendar. The Bible didn't become for everyone until after Jesus. After Jesus, that's when it was allowed for Gentiles, for everyone. Prior to that, it was just for the Hebrew people, which is why it's propaganda. Greeks and Romans, nope. It was before the Greeks and Romans that the 7-day calendar came out. Right, you damning someone with a curse. That exactly. Oh my God. Oh. But it wasn't the Greeks and Romans who the 7-day calendar was already a thing in other cultures before the Greeks and Romans came about. Now the Greeks did conquer one of the groups of people that started it, but it wasn't the Greeks and the Romans. Right. What type of God needs rest? Well, I was told that God only rested because he knew later on he wanted to give a demonstration to man that man needed to rest. But yet in the Roman culture, and this was a problem that Romans had with Jewish people, then thought that they were lazy. Romans only rested on holidays and festivals. They had a bunch of them, but they thought it was absurd that the Jewish people within the Roman government required this Sabbath day off. And that's why that's one reason they didn't like them. Do Sumerians? The Sumerians, yes, because the Sumerians to the Akkadians but it's primarily the Babylonians. They initiated the 7-day rest. I mean, the 7th day rest. This is because on the 7th day, which was Saturday, now think about it, the Jewish people do it from sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. 7-day Adventists are the same. The Sabbath was on Saturday because they worship Saturn, who was also Baal and Marduk. So when you look at the time frames, of course, the name change, but each one of the names of, Baal and Marduk were represented by the planet Saturn. And this is why the Greeks then took that, because Saturn was a big deity for them as well. I forgot who Saturn is in the Romans. I forgot who it is in the Romans right now. But the other group was the Egyptians. The Cushite people, the Cush people had a 7-day calendar. It wasn't based on any deities or anything like that. It was based on trying to create a calendar so that it could fit into their seasons. And they would be able to identify when the Nile was going to flood so that they can be ready for the flooding of the Nile from the south and be ready to plant and continue to live. So there was more astrological and agricultural. But the primary two, the Babylonians really honed in on it. And then when these Jewish people came out of Babylonian captivity in 534, they had been learned. That's when they learned this. That's why this book was when it was edited by Hezekiah and Josiah, is after the Babylonian captivity. This is when the 7 days is added into here. I know for some reason YouTube is choppy today. I don't know why. It can't be my internet. Let me see. Is anything that's in here using? I don't know. But that's also why I'm repeating stuff, so that if it's chopped, you still can catch it. But yeah, this is where they get that from. This is not an original thing. They did not originate the 7 days of 7 day work week, the 7 day week with the Sabbath being a rest day. So Genesis, when the world was created in 6 days, and why, if you're an omnipotent God, why do you need 6 days? You don't need 6 days. You should be able to do everything in an instant. But that whole all these 7 days things is started because of what they learned from the Babylonians and the Egyptians. Because time frames where at the time frame of all of this, the Levant was controlled by Egypt. So there is still a heavy Egyptian influence into their understanding and their lifestyle. Yeah. The Sumerians, and see, that's the thing. The Sumerians originally initiated the 7 days, which is, I lump the Sumerians and the Babylonians when it comes to the religion. They're all in the same because all they did was just change it up a little bit. You know, the Babylonians would just change up some names. The Akkadians, they would just change up some names. You know, there are Akkadians and the Akkadians and the Assyrians. They all just kind of changed the names to fit them, but it's still the same timeline. So we can't start with just saying the Sumerians. But because they learned this when they came out of Babylonian captivity, that's when it hit the Jewish people, the Hebrew people, I should say. And of course, there were times where it was under Egyptian control, and the Hermetic people taught them the same thing. So this is not something that's of them. Right. And we continue. Now, this went pretty good, even though this guy is disrespectful as hell to women. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. So that's good. You should honor your mother and father. But what if you got bad parents? Right? What if you got some bad parents, some jacked up parents? Am I to honor, am I to honor an abusive father? Am I to honor a negligent mother? Well, y'all may not remember. I don't know how old some of y'all are, but like the Susan Smith girl who drowned her babies in South Carolina back in the day in the 90s. I think that was in the 90s. She drowned her baby so that she can be with this other man. That's not an honorable woman. No children. She should never have access to any child. Y'all seen the movie Precious? Should Precious have honored that lady? Is parents simply a blood relation thing? No, parenting is not just blood relation. True good parents can be anybody. You don't have to be blood related. You don't have to be blood related. Right? I mean, I got a couple of kids who think that you look at me as a father figure because of how I am in their life, but we have no blood relation. You know. So blended families, you got a blended family, sure. You're a good person, honor that person. But what about I know of someone who was constantly and consistently raped by a stepfather. Should you honor that parent? That was her stepfather. Should she have honored him? No. Right? And don't forget, she blamed a black man. Yes, right. She did blame a black man. She said that a black man stole her children. And you know, every black person was like, nah, we know that heifer line. Because one thing, jack the car, possibly. Jack the car and keep the kids? Hell no. Everybody knew that was not a black man. Right? But every parent should not be honored. They don't deserve to be honored. So although I get the intent, you need a little bit. You had all that to say about keeping the Sabbath. Goddamn Sabbath is 1, 2, 3, 4 verses. Honor your parents. You need a couple more verses in there. You know, you need to describe what kind of parents should be honored. The hypocritical one, you shall not murder. Now, of course, a Christian will say that any murder by God was done by God's will, so it's okay, because it's okay for that guy to commit genocide because those people were wrong anyway. Many evangelical Christians use this to explain away the death penalty and why we should have a death penalty. And then they will say that killing somebody in war is different than killing somebody, who hasn't done anything. And they'll draw the distinction between killing and murder. I'm in war, I'm killing. I'm just walking down the street and I want your purse, I'm murdering. And I take it and I kill you, I'm murdering. But no, this is a hypocritical statement. Murder is murder, even in war. How about thou shalt not? If this is supposed to be for everybody and you wanted people to be peaceful, thou shalt not war. But we still ain't seen nothing about slavery, have we? You shall not commit adultery. Now, there's a workaround this one, because anybody you have sex with, you are married to, right? So I got a wife. If I had a wife and I go and I have sex with another person, I just make her my wife. So I'm not committing adultery. But adultery truly is I'm having sex with somebody else's wife, right? That's adultery, is having sex with somebody else's wife. Having a sex with another single woman while I'm married is not committing adultery. That is, I'm polygamous now, because now that's my wife, because the actual marrying somebody is the act of having sex with them. So this is why in some groups, they will say that it is impossible for a man to commit adultery with a single woman. He's just marrying that woman. It is only when he has sex with another married woman, because women are what in this Bible? Women are what in this Bible? Come on, there's one word I want to hear. Starts with a P. Women are what in this Bible? I want to see somebody say it. Women, what are women in this Bible? What do they? Property, exactly. Thank you, Nick. Women are property in this Bible. So when you have sex with another man's wife, you're having sex, thank you, exactly, Papa, so with his property. And the reason why you don't need to have sex with his property is because if she gets pregnant, how will he know if it's his bloodline or your bloodline? You've corrupted the bloodline. We don't know, and we know that to these people, bloodlines are vital. They live in such a caste system that if I am the bloodline of a ruler, then I must also be a ruler. Doesn't matter if I'm equipped to be a ruler, if I'm talented to be a ruler, I just have to be a ruler. And we've seen through history how this caste system works, how they work this caste system, but it is not good. That's why some kingdoms have fallen, because they stick to these stupid bloodlines instead of who should be a good leader. But that's what adultery is. So if you were a Christian and you went and had sex with another woman, she's single, that's your wife. Polygamy. American Western culture is the reason why polygamy is not allowed. This book allows for polygamy, but only for men. This book only allows polygamy for men. So ladies, sorry. Once again, you get the short end of the stick. And sometimes you really get the short end of the stick. Ha ha ha. Y'all just let that one slide. Don't nobody say nothing about that one. Nothing. All right. You shall not steal. That's a good one. You shouldn't steal stuff. Stealing is good. Don't steal somebody's stuff. It's good. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. Don't lie about your neighbor. That's a good one. We got two of them. That's good. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male or female servants, his oxen or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. This one a little hard, because we know that later on Jesus translate this one into, if you even think about having sex with a woman, you've already committed adultery, right? With another man's wife, you've already committed. If it's a thought, if you think of a sin, of committing something that is evil or something that is negative, then you have already committed that sin. This is how Jesus translated this, which Jesus is straight wrong in that translation. Well, he's actually, let me rephrase. He's right in the translation, but this is such a wrong thing. You're trying to police thought. Look, I'm a man, okay? And I likes women. I likes women. Damn, and every man on here, just say agree. Just say agree. Every man on here, just say agree if you agree with me. Damn near every woman that walks into your line of sight, you evaluate her as far as her physical beauty. And if she meets your criteria, you have the wayward thought. You can't even really control it. It just pops in and pops out. It's not that you want to act on it, but you'll look at, she can get it. She can get it. Y'all know y'all do it. She fits what you like. Like, I know what I like. I don't know what C-Mac like. So a woman might come in here. I don't know what Nick like. Woman come in here. I don't know what Papa Soul like. But if she fits any of our categories, our what we, she can get it. But it doesn't mean we're gonna go and try to mess with this woman. You know, we could if we're in a relationship and we're committed in a relationship, we think it, but we don't. We ain't finna go do it. You know, if she's attached to somebody, I've seen like where dudes were single in here, and a woman walks in, and once they realize she's married to somebody or something like that, they like, she's nice to look at, but I'm not going to try to get with her. You know, I'm not trying to put some moves on her or nothing like that, because, you respect the fact that she's married. You do have the ones who don't give a damn, but for the most part, you're going to respect it. I see it every day. All right. Oh, I'm a big ass sinner when it comes to that, because I have a habit of looking at a woman and I'm going to find something about that woman that's attractive, because I think every woman deserves to be attractive. And oftentimes, if it's something that's not like too egregious, I'll say it. Like, I'll see a woman, she has a beautiful hair, and I'll tell her, like, your hair is beautiful, especially if she's a black woman. I try to celebrate black women as often as possible, because they like we've caught hell, they've caught hell. So, I try to celebrate black women, especially the younger girls who seem to have they could be suffering from some low self-esteem. I tell myself, you're a beautiful little girl, you're a cute little girl, you're so sweet. But then there was a black woman, and I tell her, your hair is beautiful, or that's beautiful dress, love the shoes, whatever. But just having a thought of, she can get it, according to Jesus, you sinning. That's bullshit. You cannot police thought. It is an impossibility for you to control every thought that comes to you, that can come into your mind. All right. Your actions is what dictates whether you are wrong about something or not. I've been committing adultery since 13. Shit, I've been committing adultery since I was about 6. I was 6 years old when I started realizing that, and really it was because Miss Dot. Miss Dot kept calling me her boyfriend when I was 6 years old. And Miss Dot was fine. So I was her boyfriend. Ooh, Miss Dot. No, Miss Dot. Anyway, we're going to move on. We're going to keep talking. We ain't going to talk about Miss Dot. I don't have to fight none of y'all. All right, but so don't covet, don't your wife, the neighbor's wife, because your neighbor's wife is property, and everything else that's listed here is property. Male, female servants, property. Oxen, property. Donkeys, property. Anything that belongs to your neighbors. all the neighbors' property. So I don't know why women still go get down with this book. Y'all are property. That's just what it says. It's not me. It's what the book says. So when the people saw the thunder and the lightning and heard the trumpet and saw the mountains in smoke, mountain in smoke, they trembled with fear, not respect, with fear, as this God desires. They stayed a distance, and Moses said to them, "Speak to us yourself, and we will listen. But do not have God speak to us, or we will die." So the people are saying, "Hey, man, all that big ass drama of the spaceship landing and all, we don't want to talk to this guy. Let this guy talk to you, and we'll listen to you." But he's already threatened us with stoning and arrows. He's already threatened us that if we don't obey these commands, they were going to punish us to the fourth generation. He already said that he's going to come out against us if we if we touch the foot of this mountain. I don't want to deal with this dude. This dude crazy. So I don't blame them. They scared of this dude. But Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid. God has come to test you so that the fear of God will be with you, and keep you from sinning." Well, we know they failed that test. And the people remained at a distance while Moses approached the thick darkness where God was. So we know they failed that test, right? That test was 100% failed, right? We know that didn't happen because they sinned. And they gonna sin pretty quickly here, according to this God. And we know that people consistently sin and always sin. And if this God knows all from the present to past, present, and future, then he already know that it wasn't going to work. I already know it wasn't going to work. So why do it? So then we're going to get to the good part. So another good part here. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites this: you have seen for yourselves that I have spoken to you from heaven. Do not make any gods to be alongside me. Do not make for yourself gods of silver or gods of gold." Why has he got to go back and repeat this one? All out of the ones that you just did, the don't steal and don't murder should be the one that you're going to repeat. But it is the egotism of this deity that he got to make sure that these people, look, I'm telling y'all, just worship me now. I'm asking, I'm telling you, that's the main deal. So then he says, "Make an altar." And he can't possibly know the future, assuming he didn't lie about free will. True. How can he know the future unless we got free will? We don't, according to this book, if he knows the future. So one or the other. Now, this chapter is going to end on something kind of weird. Okay? Y'all ready for this weird ending? "Make an altar of earth for me. Make an altar of earth for me, and sacrifice on it your burnt offerings and fellowship offerings, your sheep and your goats and your cattle." You know this God loves some blood sacrifice and some barbecue. Wherever I cause my name to be honored, I will come to you and bless you. If you make an altar of stones for me, do not build it with dressed stones, for you will defile it if you use the tools on it. So don't use it with the good stones. You're going to mess it up with your tools. And here's the crazy. "And do not go up to my altar on steps, or your private parts will be exposed." The other than murder, other than slavery, other than women as property, other than some killing some animals, this God is completely infatuated with penises, because women aren't allowed to approach this altar. It's only men. So it's not like he's infatuated with the poom poom, because he's not. But when Moses was about to be killed by this god, Zipporah had to cut off her son's ping ping, the foreskin, and then that saved Moses. We know that, you know, you Abraham had to cut off all the foreskin. Perez tricked them jokers into cutting off their foreskins. You know, it is all about that ping ping. And now, you know, Noah's son Ham saw his daddy ping ping, you know, and cursed all them people. It's always about the ping ping. It's never about the poom poom, other than keeping the chastity of it so you can make sure that that's your child. But because we're going to see when we go through Exodus how, you know, rape, you know, pay some money, you're good, you know. But if you rape somebody who's married, then you're messing up the bloodline. So got to kill you for that one. But it's all about not seeing the ping ping. So the fact that they had to put this part in here about don't make the altar with steps, because then somebody might be looking up and see your private parts. And I get it. I was in Vegas last summer, went to this industry party. I was at a cigar convention, went to an industry party. For some reason, the elevator only went so far. Then we had to count on all these steps. And this girl had this little skirt on. I mean, one of them little tennis-looking skirts. And when she was walking up ahead of me and Ghost, yeah, you can see all her goodies. So, okay. They don't want you to see the ping ping, though. See? We gotta protect the ping ping. He had a barbecue and privates exposed. Guy had a freaknik. Boy, you stupid. We're trying to have a serious discussion, C-Man. Let's not forget Adam walked around in the garden butt naked before they ate from the tree. Right. And at first it was just Adam. So you want to see Adam ping ping. He didn't want to see Eve. He didn't want to see no tatas and poom poom. He didn't want to see the tatas and the poom poom. He want to see that ping ping. He liked the fact that Adam walked around butt naked. Maybe he got some ideas within himself. You see Adam down there walking around butt naked? Yeah. I made him. Ping ping and all. Whew. So we gotta have a barbecue so we freaknik. We had a freaknik at Mount Sinai. Got it. See, Matt? Freaknik at Mount Sinai. Well, y'all crazy as hell. Y'all think y'all entertain me so much. Y'all participate in my foolishness. So I respect that. I never understood circumcision, considering we were supposedly made in God's image. What gives with that? It's a test. According to this Bible, it's a test. It's a sign that you are devoted to this God. So even though you're made in an image, the way they explain it, it was done. You were given the foreskin so that you can cut the foreskin off in order to show as an outward symbol you belong to this God. You know, kind of like if you're a member of the Divine Nine and you know the men they get branded. You know, like the Qs get branded as a sign of who they were, you know, who they belong to. So this is a sign of who you belong to. Now, when you read in the Gospel of Thomas, I think it's in Gospel of Thomas, it has Jesus saying that if God wanted you to be circumcised, then he would have made you that way already. Right? So Gospel of Thomas kind of, you know, they always say Jesus came to fulfill the law. But if you accept the Gospel of Thomas as actual sayings of Jesus, then he goes against what the Old Testament says, because it makes sense. If he wanted you circumcised, you'd have been made circumcised. It wouldn't have been something that had to be done. All right, God, what the fuck? Who told you was naked? Exactly, D-boy. But yeah, so that's the whole deal with the circumcision. For the Jewish people, it was a sign, but Jesus supposedly said that if you're made in God's image, then you were made uncircumcised, and there's no reason to be circumcised. That the circumcision is supposed to be like a circumcision of the heart, which is supposed to be a change of who you are. You're no longer you no longer act out. You no longer murder. You no longer steal. You no longer commit adultery. You no longer put curses on people or do any of those things. That you are fully transformed and transfigured into, a child of God. This is why when people always challenge me saying that, well, if have you, they always ask the question, this is a setup question, have you ever had the Holy Spirit? All right. And then if I told them yes, then no, there's no way you had the Holy Spirit, because once you had the Holy Spirit, you can never leave the Bible. But one thing that they always forget, that if you ever had the Holy Spirit according to this book, then that also means that you have been transfigured, that you have been transformed into a new creature, and that you are now living a holy life, right? But yet they are not. Like in the video I posted yesterday or the day before, the prisons are filled with Abrahamic religious people. Primarily in America, is filled with Christians. 70% of the prison population is Christian. And I'm talking about jokers going in Christian. So where's this change? So that means that none of them are really Christians then. They're not real Christians, because evidently they didn't have this Holy Spirit that's changed, that circumcised their heart. So they're not Christian. So that way, in that regard, them claiming Christianity is them taking the Lord's name in vain, because they're not bearing that name in honor. But the conflict in that is that the book also tells them in Romans that even your righteousness is filthy to the Lord. So even when you do good things, it's filthy to this God, because even the best person you could possibly be, filled with the Holy Spirit, transfigured, all those kind of things, it's still a filthy rag. You're still unworthy. That's some serious low self-esteem bullshit. That's like a child. No matter how you do your hair, no matter how clean your skin is, no matter what you do to make yourself look good, you are always ugly. You're always ugly. You can have the best body, you can have the best looking face, the best hair, dress it all up nicely. You're still ugly. You're still ugly. If a parent did that to a child, is that a good parent? Should you honor that parent? Hell no. That's piss poor parenting, because you effectively are killing the self-esteem of this child, which would be a great plan of the demiurge. If the demiurge's goal is to keep you cycling through into this human form and keep you away from the all, keep you away from ascending consciously, one of the best ways is to always let you know that you are nothing, that you are crap, you are shit turd, that you never will have enough worthiness, and that you need something outside yourself to find that worthiness. And because you will never find it, and because when you die, it's not there, you recycle back to this earth. If you didn't see us last Thursday when we talked about the Tibetan Book of the Dead, you recycle back. You instead of you going into the white light, you go into the purple or the black or the red or the yellow, which is entering into a different womb. And doing it all again. And if you're born into an Abrahamic religion, you're born into a religion that tells you that you are worthless, that you can never really attain enlightenment. But that's the goal of this. That's how this book is structured. That's one of those things that made me like, okay, I really got to leave this book alone, because this book affects my self-image. Really. It really did. Because let me tell y'all, I was like super devout back in the day. Right? There is no heaven or hell. It is not. It's the creation of your mind. It's a creation of your mind. Heaven and hell is a creation of your mind. But I was like seriously devout when I was young. Like serious. If this book said that this is something you ain't supposed to do, you ain't supposed to do it. When I used to have thoughts about about girls in high school, when I used to have thoughts about girls in high school, I used to beat myself up about having thoughts about girls in high school. Right? I mean, I was trying to be, because I wanted to go to heaven. I wanted to go to heaven. So you couldn't tell me that this book was wrong back in the day. When I was growing up, even when I had a lot of questions about it, I was trying to make it work, make it fit, and I walked. Yeah, I did some stuff when I was younger, but then when I was start hitting them teenage years, I was trying to walk lockstep. I was studying this book. I was reading this Bible over and over again because I was scared of hell. So I was trying to be excellent. But the more I studied, the more I realized this can't be right. This is not right. Not even by a long shot. Not even. I would never teach my children that they were born broken and defective. I am so glad that I got away from the organized religion before I had children. Exactly. By the time we had children were born, I had children. I made sure that their self-esteem was never going to be a problem. Never going to be a problem. They were going to know that they were amazing, point blank, period. That they were beautiful. Everybody ain't going to like you, but you're going to love you. You're going to love you. And I made sure that they got that encouragement, especially my girls. And my girls are chocolate. So, and you know how that thing can play in America with color complexes. I made sure my girls knew that they were beautiful and that their father was going to be their first love. That their father was going to be the guy that makes sure that they know that they are wonderfully made by me and your mama. That y'all are amazing. You're brilliant. You're brilliant little girls. I made this for my son too. But my girls, I was on it big time. And I made sure they understood. There's a difference between being that person's child and being my child. To be my child, you had to be great. I taught my children, remember who you are. You are my child. You are a Reed. I am father, you are daughter, you are son, and you come from this, and you are great. You are even greater than me. Your duty is to do things greater than me, to be better than me, right? Because you come from greatness. And I didn't have to do you come from kings and queens and, of Egypt or the Songhai or the Mali. My father's family comes from Mali. I didn't have to do all of that, or from Yoruba or from the Creek. No, you didn't have to be a king, queen. You didn't have to come from warriors. You didn't have to come from all these titles that we create. You come from greatness simply because you come from me. That is all the greatness you need. You come from greatness because you come from a grandmother who worked 2.5 jobs to make sure she took care of 3 kids. That's greatness. You come from a family that was close knit on both sides. You come from men who were men on both sides. I made sure they understood you come from greatness of just people who regardless of what was in front of them, they consistently and continuously battled against adversity and got shit done. That's who you come from. That's all the greatness you need. If I gotta say you came from a king, fuck, king could have been a horrible ass king. Could have been an old sad ass king. King Tut had all kind of issues. Oh, cleft foot and something else was wrong with him. And some of them were tyrants. Not every king was good. Not every warrior was good. But let me tell you about the ones that I can point to and I can show you right now. The ones that I grew up with and I know them. That's the greatness you came from. It doesn't matter about all this other genealogy bullshit. That's all fine and well to know, But at the end of the day, it starts with me and your mama, your grandparents, your uncles and your uncles and your aunties. It comes from their parents as far back as we can go and know them. So, but this book takes away that. I can tell my kids how great they are all day, but if they believe in a God that says that they are filthy rags, that even in their goodness they are worthless, nah, because that God belief will supersede what the parents tell them about yourselves. That God belief will mess it up every time. Could the Bible be a portal for the agape? Because they really talk down to women. A portal for an introduction to the agape? Hell no. No. Are you talking about? I'm assuming you're talking about agape love, but no. If you're talking about that, no. So you might have to explain that a little bit more, Black Lands. But hell no. This book is a propaganda book written by people to uplift themselves, but yet control all those under the power structure, which was then augmented by the Romans to do so in the form of Christianity, and then augmented by the Arabs to do so in the form of Islam. It is a great book of propaganda and control. They wouldn't, even though they knew of Buddhism and Hinduism and the Tao, they could not have used those books to control the people because those books don't control people in the same way. The power is really given to the people in those books. The Upanishads and the Vedas not as much as the Buddhist and the Tao, but the Buddhist and the Tao really, especially the Tao, gives all control to the individual person. And ascension is based on the individual person, and there's nothing in the way of that. This organized religion is a virus that needs a very sophisticated cure to eradicate it. It does. It does. Yeah, but see, Nick, trying to make indoctrination into religion illegal until the age of 18, you won't be able to enforce that. Because parents are going to teach their children what they believe. And if the government got involved with that, well, and it will be impossible. Here's the thing. I got people who say that, well, I didn't become Christian. I became Christian because I realized that Jesus moved in my life, and my parents, uh, my parents weren't Christian, and that's not how I became Christian. Yeah. But they grew up around Christianity. They grew up seeing churches on every corner. They grew up with prayers in school or people praying all the time. The president getting on there saying we're gonna pray because this national tragedy has happened. You know, you don't have to grow up with parents who push it, but it's pushed through the culture. Just by being in America, you get pushed by, especially it's now you see more Islamic stuff around, but prior to about 30 years ago, there wasn't much Islamic stuff around in most places. And you can still go to some places where you go to North South Dakota and you don't see no Islamic nothing. You don't see much Islamic anything there. But you're surrounded by Christianity. Daily life has Christianity written all through it. So it's kind of it will be very difficult. Right. There was a question that somebody had asked way earlier and before YouTube messed up. I don't remember what the question was, and I said that's a whole big old discussion. Now we're in that time frame where we can have that discussion, but I don't remember what it was. So if you're still there, if you can repeat that question, we're good. But give it one generation of children to come up and grow up and understand that they were forced into it. Yeah. All you do need is one generation of enlightenment, and it changes the game. One generation of enlightenment. And one of the things is that you have to popularize. Like all these things happen because some teacher, some teacher is able to come out and teach the people, and is supported by government. Like the government can't be the entity that shuts it down. Jesus don't become Jesus without the Roman government. If the Roman government doesn't get behind the Jesus movement would have died out um, probably by the 4th or 5th century. As a matter of fact, if Constantine had supported Mithra and continued to allow the oppression of Christianity, and then Theodosius in 480 would have made Mithraism the religion of Rome, Christianity does not become anything. It dies. It would be as big as Zoroastrianism today, which Zoroastrianism is only about 300,000 strong. Christianity would be a small little religion that gets no play. So basically, if it wasn't for Theodosius, Christianity doesn't become Christianity. Your kids told you that the Bible was confusing and convoluted. Those some smart kids. Some smart kids. But yeah, so in order to change it has to be a push from outside, and the government can't stop them. And Christianity can die. Islam, Christianity, Judaism, they can all die. They can all become small, minute religions. But there has to be a replacement. There has to be a replacement. Unfortunately, people in general, in mass, people need a religion. The sheep need a shepherd. They need one. They have to have one. One of the problems that I have, and reason why I'm creating a program, a program, a coaching program. So it won't be free, just let you know. A coaching program to help people, to guide people and help them to walk away from religion, is because one of the most difficult things is that when a person walks away from religion, then their biggest thing is, what do I worship now? How do I have spirituality now? What pathway do I follow now? Most people have to have a pathway to follow, a pathway of spirituality. And I agree, we do need some guidance. This is one reason why I love the Tao. He wasn't trying to convert anybody. He was just saying, look, you got to get into the flow of the way. Just get into the flow of the way. And when you're and you can identify that by these are your actions, these are your thought processes of being in the flow of the way. But it is not to worship. The Tao does not tell you to worship any deity at all. People do need that. They need a pathway, but that pathway should be their own journey and their own pathway. It shouldn't be codified by me or anybody else. It shouldn't be a set of rituals that you have to follow. It should be whatever works for you. And the process that I will take people through is how to discover your pathway to enlightenment. Because not everyone's pathway to enlightenment is going to be the same. The Tao may not affect you the same way it affects me. The Kabbalion may not affect you the same way it affects me. The great book, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, may not affect you the way it affects me. So it is figuring out that discovery of what affects you, what moves you to higher consciousness. And you can tell a person with higher consciousness based on their actions. That's how you can tell. Not trying to control people's thoughts. I will always have some negative thoughts, but it's my actions that matter. It can't have a destination you don't choose. Mm-hmm. The Igbo race are the most brainwashed race in this virus called religion. When the colonizers came, we abandoned our ways of life and followed the colonists' ways. Things have fallen apart. Well, I gotta tell you, when your life and the life of your family, your children are threatened, you'd be surprised at what you would go along with. It is not that they convinced the Igbo people with the Igbo with evangelism. It was with torture. With torture. You know, there's only, to my knowledge, if it's still the same, when I was in the Marine Corps, there was only one school that you can fail in the military and it not harm your military career. And that was POW school. If you fail POW school, any other school you fail, you may not get promoted. POW school, they accept that they're going to have a 90% washout rate because there's only so much torture any person can take. There's only so much torture you can take before you give up the information, before you change how you live, before you accept whatever their God is. And once you accept it and you teach it to your children, that's all your children know. Even though you can find a lot of Ifa things in Christianity, like just catching the Holy Spirit and dancing around. That's straight Ifa and voodoo. I just don't like the word program, maybe rehab or something, deprogram. Well, it'll probably be like deconstruction. Uh, I don't want to use rehab either because then people that has a negative connotation as well. So it probably, it'll be titled in deconstruction of some sort. Let me clear that up. It is more. It is more in the line of homosexuality, i.e., the Father, Son, the Holy Ghost completely taking out the woman in that scenario. Right, they're taking it out because it is focused on just the male, just the male. Right, that's why this is a male dominant religion and disrespectful to the woman. Um, Women should not fall for this book. So let me go back to what you said earlier so I can understand the whole thing. Could the Bible be a portal for the introduction to agape? Because they really talk down to women. My brain is not functioning properly on what you're getting across here. So let me do something real quick here. Where we at? Where we at? Where we at? So, all right. So you're saying that by taking out the woman, you are really just that it's an introduction to women to fall up under, to be introduced into an all father, that the love and the following of an all father of being completely caught up with just the man. And I would agree that it is an introduction to just being caught up with just the man, and that the men control everything because this God has no feminine quality. Even though in the actual Hebrew it says in the beginning with Sophia God created. With Sophia is a feminine energy. It's also considered wisdom. Um, Appreciate it, Nick. Thanks for being here. But the Bible, to me, is an introduction to women to be under control of men. So that's my thought on that one. I said the same thing. How could you have a son without the female? Christianity has no balance. No, it doesn't. No balance in it at all. There was a guy who came on here, a little troll, was saying some stuff about me wearing this unk. I ignored him at the time frame, but I don't wear the unk because I am associating myself with Egypt. I wear the unk because it is a balance of the masculine and the feminine energy. I could care less about Egypt, to be honest, when it comes to that. Um, I don't identify myself as being from Egypt. They say agape is the no better love than that of man. Yeah, because agape love is supposed to be this all-encompassing, all-loving thing, but it's not. Virginia, nice, good, good, good. I got some folks in Virginia. I know people in Virginia. I would like to know about Aquarius zodiac. Can you please touch it if you have knowledge? Thank you. Oh, sure. Oh, so earlier I talked about how Moses represents the age of the ram, which is what is that? Aries, I think, or no, Taurus. No, Taurus is the bull. Is Aries the ram? But we are supposedly Jesus. This Jesus represented the age of Pisces. This is supposed to be, we're supposed to be in the transition to the age of Aquarius, and we literally are. We are in a transition to the age of Aquarius because the sun is coming in at the 30th degree um, into the zodiac of Aquarius, and it will come out of it after 2,600 years, roughly 2,600 years. At the 33rd degree, it will go out of the age of Aquarius. The age of Aquarius is supposed to be the same as the first Bantoon of the Mayan calendar or the golden age of the Egyptian ages as they go from gold to silver to um, copper, bronze, and so on and so forth, bronze, copper, and then back up. It's a sign of enlightenment and intelligence. The age of Aquarius is a man pouring out a pail of water. That's why Jesus said, "Go find a man who's carrying a pail of water, and into his house we will go." He's talking about going into the zodiac house of a man carrying water. Now, if you understand the people of that day, um, men don't carry water. Even when you go to some of these nations, these countries today, men don't carry water. That's a woman's job, is to carry water. So those men would those people back then would not have taken that literally. They would have understood the metaphor of going into the age of Aquarius and going into that house, right? So, and we are going into the age of Aquarius. This is one of the reasons why you're seeing so much information coming out. So many people are walking away from these religions that are based on the Piscean age, and the Jewish people are still based on the age of the ram of Aries. They're still based on that. They haven't even, they just dropped their astrology because they are not going, they did not want to accept Jesus, and I don't blame them, but they do not want to accept Jesus, so they're not going to, they're not, they just dropped the whole astrological aspect of it unless you practice Kabbalah and drop Jesus because they're not going to do the age of Pisces. But this is the age of Aquarius. Sorry, it's just where the sun is coming up. It's in the age of Aquarius. But we are becoming more enlightened, and there is more and more information coming out there. Now, there is going to be some people who fight against it. The term woke originally just meant for a person who have awakened from traditional religions. They have become they're coming into an enlightenment. That's what that term originally was used for. But now the enemies of woke have adopted it to mean that you have to accept homosexuality on equal footing, not just accept it on equal footing. Like an enlightened person would say that a person who's homosexual has nothing to do with how they are treated as far as getting a job or housing or anything like that. And an enlightened person wouldn't care about that. But the problem is that they want to force you to accept that their lifestyle is okay. Make sure I'm saying this right. It's not that their lifestyle is not okay. Like I don't care what you do privately, but it's the forcing me to accept it, forcing me to try to have to accept it as a norm, as a way for my life to be, or my life could be or should be. No, hell no. You can't force me that if I'm a practitioner, if my thought processes are primarily based on what I see in nature, don't force me to say that that's natural. And if I disagree with you, that's fine. We don't have to agree on that point. But if you walk through these doors, I'm not going to treat you any differently than I would treat anybody else. As long as you are respecting the rules of my business, we good. We good. I don't care who you sleep with. As a matter of fact, there's a dude who came over here yesterday. He gay. I don't care. I've been knowing this dude for 11 years now. I treat him the same way I've treated him always for 11 years. And we cool with each other. Now, when he invited me over to a barbecue at his house one time, I was like, nah, I don't want to be in that environment, dude. I accept you as a person, but I don't want to be around that type of an environment. And I told him that, and he respects that, and we still cool. But it's the ones who try to force you to think the way they think. That's a problem. And so they've taken woke and they've made it where you're not woke unless you accept them into every aspect of your life and agree with them. And many other types of organizations and people have done the same thing where they've taken woke and flipped it and twisted it. So now I don't even use that term anymore because they just tear it to pieces. I missed that part. I watched a video where a guy talked about how the figures in the Bible and all the miracles are zodiacs. I can't say all of them are zodiacs, but I'm like, when it comes to the zodiacs, I'm in the minor leagues. I don't study them as much as I probably should, but I'm in the minor leagues when it comes to zodiacs. Because zodiacs are really earthen based. They're earth based. And I do have an issue with the fact that I can look up at the stars and I can draw one shape, and you can look up at the stars, at the same stars, and draw a totally different shape. So, it's a little, although when I did my birth chart and I read that thing, I was like, well, I'll be damned. That thing pretty accurate. So I give some credit to it. There's something about it. I just haven't taken the time to really study it. But there's something about it. I did take the time to do my birth chart, and I wrote out what everything means and all that kind of stuff. And it's in one of my journals somewhere. And I ain't gonna lie. Anytime I've met somebody and I want to, see if our dating can turn into something real, one of my things that I do is I do a birth chart on that person. Because somehow, some way, every person that I've dealt with, every person, not even just dealt with, just other people, and I do that damn birth chart, there's only been one person who said the birth chart really didn't say who they were. Because at the end of the day, your experiences are going to make up who you are more so than anything else. When I owned the gym, I told my clients all the time, 25% is genetic, 75% is environment. So genetically, you can be whatever. Zodiac wise, you can be whatever. But how you grow up, the experiences you had, and your perspective of those experiences, that determines who you are more so than anything else. You got two twins grow up, have the same experience, but they totally different. Even like my mom is not the same person. Like by the time I was born, she had experiences that changed her as to who she was. So I experienced a different version of my mother than everybody else. When I hear stories of how my grandfather was before I was born, I would not have liked that dude at all. But by the time I was born, my grandfather was completely different, from what my mother experienced. So same man as far as the body, but different mentality and actions. And I was a grandchild. So, grandkids are treated differently than kids. I can wait to have grandkids, but when I do, I ain't gonna be as hard on them as I was on my kids. I'll spoil the shit out of them and send them back to them kids. But I'm gonna still be a little hard on them. I ain't gonna trust my kids to raise them completely the way I want them to be raised. And Angie, I don't know why you did them big eyes. You know I sat there and did a birth chart on you. I need to know where you was born, what time you was born, the year you was born. I need to know. But we will study that more. And we already have a few programs because we need to be whole people. We got to get our finances up, get our finances right. That's why my Financially on Fire program, I was working on that yesterday. My business training, my business plan and training program, I was working on that yesterday. We're going to start having some classes, people. We're going to get your money up. I'm going to tell you right now. One of the ways to stop enlightenment is for all the enlightened people to be broke. For all the enlightened people to be broke. One of the biggest draw is for people to have money. Let me open this door. What's up, man? What's going on? Hey, what's going on? Can I interrupt you? Nah, it's after 12 o'clock. I thought you do your little podcast in the daytime. So. Yep. I do it till somebody walk in my door and stops it. Oh, see, that's what I want to do. Oh, no, it's after 12 o'clock. I've been here since 10. You got year of weapons still? No, man, that thing went so fast. I know. I didn't get a chance to get over here. That's the personal problem. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm doing. Well, you know, that's Provider Club, so they only send that small batch. And once it's gone, it's gone. Yeah. Uh-huh. See, they come in thinking I'm supposed to keep something. He's slow. But as you see, now I know why. I told you why, Angie. I told you exactly why I was doing that. I was checking. I had to see who you are, chick. Make sure if I need to go ahead and preemptively kick you to the curb. She knows she ain't going nowhere. I had to check, though, y'all. I had to check her out. I had to make sure she was all right. Yeah, Morris, got to get 10 o'clock. Somewhere between 10 and 10:15, I get started. We did have a little mess up today because YouTube acted a fool and it's still glitching a little bit today. But we're going to go ahead and shut this down. So tomorrow, 10 o'clock. What's tomorrow? Wednesday. Tomorrow, Wednesday, we're talking about, and for Facebook, you got to go to my relationship page, The Art of Tantric Love. And you know what, Facebook? I'm going to do all my videos on this one. So the Art of Tantric Love. So that Art of Tantric Love, I'm going to post on there for people to come over to hear. I don't like having all these different ones. So tomorrow on this Facebook, my relationship stuff is going to be on this Facebook. So on this YouTube, we're going to keep it right here. We are going to talk about tantric sex tomorrow and how tantric sex and tantra, how to utilize that in the spiritual format, how to grow your spiritual connection between you and another person through tantra. And it's going to be a little gratuitous now, but we're going to talk about that tomorrow. So tomorrow, Wednesday, we talk about relationships and we talk about tantric love, tantric love and tantric sex and tantric spirituality tomorrow, and how you guys can use that in your practices so that you can draw closer to your mate. Y'all can share each other's energy, how the Ankh plays a part in tantric love and tantric sex. That's what we're talking about tomorrow in around 10 o'clock. So I hope you guys are there. Again, for those who donated cash money, I appreciate it. I really do. I really do. It's helping to grow the channel. Trust me, it's helping to grow the channel. So thank you for that. Please share these videos because growing the numbers is vital. So share the videos. If you're not getting notification on YouTube, click on that bell icon. You should get notifications on Facebook. I'm still discovering Facebook, how that one works completely. Right around 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's tomorrow. And then I ain't figured out Friday yet, but we'll figure out Friday. So y'all have a great day. Remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations. And we out of here.